Hey everyone, it's Mara Allard of Wind, Water, and Wisdom. And if you've been following me for a while, you have been seeing the Monday cards. Not this past Monday, but a lot of the Monday readings is unfinished symphony, letting something go, doing something and releasing something that no longer serves you. And somebody commented on it, it's so hard. And it is hard. And so I wanted to talk about that because it's really important for our energy, our vitality, to let things go that have rotted, need to be composted, expired. Think of milk that's gone sour, that needs to be tossed. You know what they are. These aren't things you have to go soul searching for. These are things that you know need to go the hell out of your life, and you need to do it, and yet you're clinging to it. So I thought maybe if I shared some stories about things that I have let go of and the experiences I've had with letting them go, that could be helpful. Think of it like as you're sitting on the cliff and you've got to leap and you've got to jump and you're afraid. Everyone is afraid. Everyone has been in that position and they're like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And then they do it. They finally do it and they're like, what took me so long? Fear. Fear takes us so long. Disappointing others. What if it doesn't work? These are the things that go around in our mental loop. I always say to myself, what is the worst case scenario and can I live through that? And that's how I usually get to that position. If everything, the worst things that I think are going to happen, will I still be okay? Yes. And if what you think isn't going to happen, you can always go back to the old way. But 99.9% of the time, you won't. You know the door's closed. You might try to go back, but you know the door is really closed. As I went through with real estate, the door really was closed before. I kind of wanted to go back in, and then I'm like, nope, the door was really closed. Why did I have to do that? But we're human, and we have to forgive ourselves when we do those kind of things, because that's the part of the experience. That's part of the learning, is figuring it out. We don't want to be uncomfortable. That's normal. But in the discomfort comes growth. In the releasing comes growth. When I studied feng shui, overstuffed closets full of stuff were actually literally your emotions that you've tucked away and not dealt with. People, when I would go into their house and do a consultation, when they wanted to bring someone into the life, but there was no room, the house was full of stuff. There's no energy. There's no space. You must make space and energy. That's why feng shui was really attractive to me, and how I started learning to work with energy was my initial dip into feng shui, is that when we create space, when we are conscious in what we put in rooms, when we arrange things in a certain way, there's room for energy to move. And when I was probably 12 or 13 years ago, getting into real estate, I had a side hustle because I had 2 kids in high school, and heading off to college, and there was no way I could not be making income. Decent income to sustain our mortgage and our expenses in high school, cars for kids, things like that. So I had a side hustle as a virtual assistant. So I was doing virtual administrative work on the side while I tried to build a real estate business. And I quit my corporate job to do this. And so I had one really good client in the UK. And I had to get up super early in the morning to work because I was in the United States. And so I would be getting up at 2 or 3 a.m. to work for this client, and he was horrible. This client was horrible to me. He treated me so poorly. He put me down constantly. Nothing was ever right. And I was miserable. I had left corporate America for this experience to run my own businesses, and I was miserable. And I kept doing this because I didn't know any other way out. I was like, I have to do this. This is my biggest client. I have to make money. So I continued on with the abuse month after month, and then one day I just got up and I was like, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. Finished my assignment, I sent my invoice, I gave my virtual notice, and fired the client. Now, I had a website up for like a year and a half, my virtual assistant business, and I had never had one email from my website, no inquiries, no one looking for work, nothing. And a day after I gave my notice, where I had no other client that was producing that kind of income, an email came through from my website for a person in the United States, actually in the same state I lived in, looking for me to take 30 or 40 hours of virtual work. Just like that. Filled. Right there. Because I made room. I made space. I let the abusive person go, and I created space in my energetic field for something new to come in. When we do that, things shift. That was my first, before I was even working with energy, realization. I need one door shuts, another door opens. Another was I have been sober from alcohol since 2007. When I gave up alcohol, which was one of the hardest to this day things I've ever done in my life, I made space in my life for goodness to come in. My life, my trajectory was forever changed by making one of the hardest decisions in my life. I can't even say how much has changed for the better because I gave up a vice. I gave up a coping mechanism. I gave up something that made me relaxed, making life easier for me. Room. Huge amounts of room, because if you are addicted to anything, you are addicted to social media, sex, gambling, drugs, alcohol, shopping, working. Your brain consumes that a lot of time. Maybe not 24/7, but a lot. You are planning, scheming, wondering when you're going to do this thing, and you're taking up energy. So if you're like, when am I going to shop? When am I going to scroll? When am I going to, take my pills? When am I going to have a drink? When am I going to go gambling? When am I going to have sex? Whatever your addiction, a vice of choice, there's a lot of mental energy that goes into planning. I know this. All of that. When you release that, think of all the energy that can come racing in, all the opportunity that becomes available to you by giving up that one thing. When I moved out of a state that I had only lived in and shut that chapter and moved to a different part of the country with knowing nobody, I met friends. I relaxed for the first time in I don't know when. My body felt better because my body likes the heat versus cold. Things happened. Things changed. Things shifted for the better by making something I knew had expired. It was time to go. It's time to ditch booze. Time to ditch the client. Time to move out of this location. When we pay attention to the signs, we allow room for new energy, energy opportunities to come into our lives for the better. So if you're sitting on that fence, knowing something has to go, whatever that is, whether that's clutter, people, places, things, whatever that is, what has expired in your life, put a list together. What is the worst thing that ever could happen to me? Can I live through that? I'm sure the answer is probably yes. You may not like it, and it may be discomfort. With discomfort comes growth. When we're uncomfortable, we are pushing ourselves to grow. So, can you make more room in your life for something new to come in, for new energy and new opportunities? Be well. Talk soon. Oh, and if you've listened this long, I will be on vacation all next week. Something I would never do would be just to walk out and shut off. I would record on vacation. I'm not doing that. I'm allowing room to enjoy my vacation. I'm making space to enjoy my vacation. So I'll see you in a week.